Ready to dive into some seriously shady stuff? Today we're going deep on MK Ultra.
Oh, yeah, that's a rabbit hole.
MK Ultra, could the CIA actually, program assassins, Manchurian Candidate type stuff?
That's the big question. I mean, it's fueled so many conspiracy theories. Right?
Yeah.
Got to pack all that. And the truth is really a trip through some dark stuff, Cold War paranoia, what people thought science could do. It's wild.
We're talking motivations, methods, all of it.
Yeah, yeah. And it's going to get pretty shocking.
Okay, so to understand all this, we got to go back, way back to the 1950s.
Right. Total Cold War. U.S. and the Soviets locked in this, ideological battle.
And everyone's scared.
Totally. And the CIA, they're convinced the Soviets had cracked brainwashing, really cracked it.
So they figured they had to do it too.
Oh, it was more than keeping up.
Yeah.
There was this genuine fear. These techniques, they thought, could make sleeper agents,
People who would just, snap and do whatever.
Yeah, sabotage, assassination, or even getting secrets from our POWs. It was a huge concern.
So who's the guy in charge of this whole thing?
Well, you got to look at Allen Dulles. He was the CIA director back then. And he wasn't just some bureaucrat. He was hardcore anti-communist.
I mean, it was the Cold War.
True, but Dulles, he was convinced the U.S. was in, existential danger.
Yeah.
Thought any means necessary were justified, even if it meant, bending the rules a bit.
So who'd he tap to actually run this thing?
Ah, that's where it gets interesting. Sidney Gottlieb. A chemist?
A chemist for mind control.
Yeah, it's kind of weird, right? But there was this idea back then, this real belief, that any new tech, even if it was barely understood, could be the ultimate weapon.
And what did Gottlieb think was the ultimate weapon?
LSD.
Wow. So this is where the acid trip part of MK Ultra comes in.
Yeah. Exactly. And back then, LSD was brand new. Nobody really knew what it did. Gottlieb, though, he was intense, super driven, became obsessed with LSD, thought it could unlock the mind, literally unlock it. You could, break a person down completely and then rebuild them however you want it.
And how did they test that theory?
Well, that's where it gets dark. They started dosing people without their knowledge.
Seriously?
Yeah. Hospital patients, college students, even CIA employees.
Like slipping it into their coffee or something.
Sometimes. Sometimes injections. They didn't really care about the consequences,
It's awful treating people like lab rats. Didn't anyone say anything?
It was super secret. You didn't question MK Ultra. It was dangerous to your career. There's this one case, though, Frank Olson.
I think I've heard of that. He was a scientist, right?
Biowarfare expert. The irony is he was working on MK Ultra.
And they dosed him.
Yep. Total mental breakdown. Days later, he falls out a hotel window in New York.
Did he jump or was he host?
We still don't know for sure. But it shows you how reckless they were. Human life didn't really matter compared to the mission.
And LSD, that was just the start.
Oh, yeah. It got way worse. We're talking way beyond just drugs.
It's crazy, the things they were doing in the name of national security. But I guess we saw that LSD, that was just one piece of it.
Right, just the tip of the iceberg. They were going deep, really trying to figure out, how to control the mind.
What else were they doing?
Okay, so, imagine being locked in a room. Total darkness, no sound. Or the opposite. Lights flashing, crazy noises all the time. Sensory deprivation, they called it.
Trying to break people down.
Yeah, exactly. They even messed around with electroshock therapy. Push people to the limit, see what they could take.
It's like they were trying to erase who those people were so they could, I don't know, start over, program them.
And that's exactly it. They thought if you could shatter someone's personality, make them totally vulnerable, then you could, put it whatever you wanted. New beliefs, behaviors, a whole new person.
And wasn't there a doctor involved in this? Cameron, right?
Dr. Ewan Cameron, yeah. Maybe the most disturbing part of this whole MK Ultra thing, he was a psychiatrist in Canada, pretty respected, but he was getting CIA money. And he did some really awful stuff.
What kind of stuff?
This thing called psychic driving. He basically strapped people down, hit them with electroshock, and then just play the same phrases over and over.
Like brainwashing.
Exactly. Trying to rewrite their personalities with these repeated messages. You're a good person. Things like that.
God, that's terrifying. And these were his patients.
Yeah. A lot of them just had minor problems like anxiety or something, came to him for help and ended up in this nightmare.
That's just, I don't even know what to say. It's like they lost all sense of right and wrong.
The Cold War, it did something to people.
Yeah.
This idea that anything was justified. But even then, this is on another level. And it didn't stop there. They even looked into hypnosis.
Hypnosis. Like making people do things without knowing it. That's straight out of a spy movie.
The CIA, they were really intrigued by it. The idea that you could implant thoughts, even trigger actions. They figured, maybe this is the key to mind control.
Did they ever create like a real Manchurian candidate, someone programmed to, I don't know, kill someone or
A
something?
perfectly programmable agent? No, that always seemed to be out of reach. But they did get some creepy results. Some people, they were really susceptible to suggestion. They do things, even remember things differently, all because of hypnosis.
So it did work, like to an extent.
Yeah, enough to be scary. And the experiments they did, they were really pushing the ethical boundaries. Like, there were cases where agents were told under hypnosis to do things they'd never normally do, hurt people, betray their country, things like that.
It's insane. They were playing God with people's minds. And all this, it was kept secret for how long?
For years, decades really, MKUltra was buried deep. But in the 70s, things started to change. Public trust in the government was not so good. And there were a few things that happened that kind of forced the truth out. Richard Helms, the CIA director then, he actually ordered all the MKUltra files destroyed.
Trying to cover it up. Classic.
Yeah, but luckily, he didn't get everything. Some documents survived. And then you had Congress, they started investigating, holding hearings. The CIA, they couldn't hide it anymore. They had to admit that MKUltra existed.
I bet people were freaked out. I mean, LSD, torture, mind control, this stuff is straight out of a
It
nightmare.
was a huge scandal, and rightfully so. These weren't just, abstract ideas. These experiments, they ruined people's lives.
Yeah, and it feels like MKUltra has kind of stayed with us. Whereas, I mean, we see this stuff in movies, books, everywhere. It's like, it's in our culture now. It's kind of like MKUltra became this, like, this symbol of everything we're scared of, about being controlled.
Yeah, totally. I mean, think about it. Brainwashing, secret experiments, people being manipulated. It's everywhere.
Yeah.
Movies, TV, books.
Oh, for sure. The Manchurian Candidate, that's a classic. But even now, it's like every action movie, even sci-fi stuff, has that fear of mind control woven in.
It really gets at something deep, doesn't it? This idea that we might not be in control of our own minds. And these days, with all the tech, the algorithms, it feels, well, it feels possible.
Yeah, definitely. Like, are we really making our own choices? Or are we being, I don't know, nudged in certain directions?
And that's the legacy of MKUltra. That suspicion, that feeling like maybe someone's pulling the strings. It makes you question everything. Who do you trust? What's real?
It makes you wonder, like, what's going on right now that we don't know about? Is there some new MKUltra happening somewhere?
I mean, officially, MKUltra ended in the 70s, right? But that doesn't mean people stop trying to understand the mind or control it. And the thing is, science is so much more advanced now.
Yeah.
Neuroscience, AI, all that data they collect about us. It's both amazing and kind of scary.
Yeah, it is. We could learn so much. But what if that knowledge is used for bad stuff?
That's the thing about MKUltra. It's a warning. We can't let that happen again. We got to be careful. We can't treat people like experiments. The human mind it's powerful. It's delicate. And we got to respect that.
So where does that leave us? It feels like this isn't just some history lesson. It's like there's more to do, right?
Absolutely. MKUltra, it's got to be a reminder about the dangers of too much power, about being transparent, about watching what the government is doing, especially with science. We can't just forget about it.
And we can't be passive. We got to keep asking questions, keep learning, keep fighting for our freedoms. Our minds are powerful things. It's up to us to make sure they're used for good.
I think that's a good place to leave it. Thanks for joining me on this deep dive into MKUltra.
Yeah, thanks for having me. And everyone listening, keep digging.
No.
Keep asking those tough questions.
If you enjoyed this video and want to dive deeper into more cases like this one, make sure to subscribe to our channel. Don't forget to like the video if you found the story compelling, and share it with your friends and family who might be interested in true crime and mysteries. By subscribing, you'll stay up to date with all our latest content and join a growing community of curious minds exploring the most fascinating cases. Click the notification bell so you never miss an upload. Your support means everything.